Welcome back. I am Jaime Levine with Elder Law Advocacy. Usually we talk about scams and we talk about education, but today's guest is arguing that we've reached a point where education isn't enough. We're facing psychological warfare powered by AI with global losses in the tens of billions and rising fast. Joining me today is Dr. Ariana Mirian. Dr. Mirian holds a PhD in computer science and engineering from UCSD and is a co-founder of BeeSafe AI. So I had watched your interview with Dennis, I forget his last name.
Dennis Fisher, yeah.
Dennis Fisher, the Decipher, I guess that's the name of the platform. What is Decipher?
Yeah, Decipher is essentially a platform to talk about all sorts of security-related news.
Okay.
And Dennis and I go way back, so we recently reconnected on that platform.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I thought it was an amazing interview, so if anyone wants to check that out as well, I would recommend it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sure Dennis will be glad to hear as well.
Yeah, and one thing that came up in that interview was this idea of fluoride in the water being analogous to the situation that we're facing when it comes to the scams that we're all trying to prevent and to address.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that. And the question really is, why is education no longer sufficient for us to avoid being scammed? Like, what is going on out there?
Yeah, oh my goodness. It brings up so much, Jamie. And I know you're familiar with scams, but just to take a step back, I think a lot about these sort of conversational trust-based scams. They also go by this term pig butchering. And so these start with these really innocuous looking texts that I think all of us are getting that are like, hey John, are we still up for golf? Mary, did you fix the reservation? Hey, are we gonna see you at the party tonight? Like these things where you look at it, you're like, oh, it's a wrong number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And inevitably people respond because we're human. We want to make sure like John gets to his golfing match. But what follows is a conversation, which can last days, weeks, months. And it's not actually John or Mary, whoever on the other end, it's an attacker who is trying to build trust with a potential victim over time. And then at some point, days, weeks, months later, they say, hey, we're friends. How about I help you with some investment? Hey, we're friends. I'm in a bit of a predicament. Could you help me out? Right? At some point, there's a financial ask of some sort. It can look very different and can manifest in different ways. And this is leading to billions of dollars in losses in fraud and fraud investigations in the US alone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I've done a lot of research with human-centered security and how do we use data to understand what's happening with people. And I've also been fortunate enough to study, like phishing training and how phishing training is effective or ineffective. See, I even let that slip a little bit. And at the end of the day, I'm like, how do you train someone to not respond to these really innocuous looking messages, right? Like, how do you get someone to spot something that looks so innocent? And especially when the tactics are changing. I mean, a couple years ago, this was not a prevalent thing. Were you getting these texts a couple years ago? Because I wasn't.
No.
It's like all of a sudden this cropped up because the attackers figured it out, right? They're like, oh, here's a new way we can get people to fall for it. And the world, the internet, these attackers, they move so quickly that I'm like, yes, education can get some people. I don't want to completely forego the benefits of education, but it's not going to protect everyone. So
Right.
What else can we do?
Right. So when we were trying to educate people about what to look out for, we were saying, oh, well, look at this email. It has grammatical mistakes and it doesn't look like the logo is correct. And all those days are over. Like with AI, there are no more mistakes in emails. Like it's all perfect.
100%. I literally was talking to someone about this yesterday. It's like that was one of the big, when you do phishing training, it's like there's a couple warnings. And one of them is, oh, well, the English might sound off.
Right. There's none of that.
Not anymore. It's like the world is evolving so quickly. How can we expect education to 100% keep up with the changing world?
Yeah. And to go back to your point about how not to respond, we're brought up to be polite. Like if you
Yeah.
were brought up in, most families and your parents saw you not respond to someone when they asked you a question, they probably said, that's not polite. You have to,
Right.
when someone talks to you, you have to, say something to them. It's rude otherwise. So you have to undo years and years of their being trained to act a certain way
Yeah.
because the scammers are expert at psychological warfare.
Yes.
They're not
Yes.
just manipulators, they are out to get you.
100%. And like right now, and this is so first off, yes, this is why I always tell people, I'm like, because sometimes I mention this to folks. I'm like, hey, have you gotten these texts? And some people are like, yeah, I never respond to those. Do people respond? And I'm like, yes, of course people respond. It's human. It's human to respond and be like, oh no, I'm not your golf partner. Might want to figure it out. You don't want someone to show up to the golfing center and then they're like, oh, where's my friend? It's very human. But the attackers have found this new method of like building trust over time to get this financial payout. And it really is psychological warfare. I mean, if someone was to, I would feel betrayed, right? Like if I was developing a new friendship and they were talking to me for weeks or months, and then all of a sudden they were like, I'm in trouble, or like, I can help. I mean, that's a really compelling story. Like, I don't blame the victims at all. I'm like, this is terrifying from a research and defender perspective, because it is really leaning on human psychology. It is, instead of like, oh, let me try and send them a document and get them to send me their bank account this way, they're just asking now, right? They're just spending a couple weeks chit-chatting with someone, and then they say, hey, could you send me this money? I'm in trouble. Hey, I'm going to help you, whatever. It's terrifying is the word that just keeps coming to mind. It is like truly devastating to see these sorts of attacks play out.
Yeah. When I get those texts, I always look at them and I'm like, oh, just like delete and mark it, whatever, block it. But part of me wants to be like, okay, let's do this and like respond, and then. But isn't that what you're kind of doing with BeeSafe? Like, tell us about this initiative and how it works and what you're learning.
Totally. And I want to say for folks who are listening in the audience, I know it's super compelling to respond to them. I recommend you don't, because unfortunately you end up on the scammers list. Right. They're like, oh, this number's going to respond. Like, let's try again later. So for personal protection, I always recommend you not. But yeah, and I want to get back to your fluoride comment because this is really relevant. But at BeeSafe, we are trying to prevent victim losses before it happens. And so our philosophy is like, listen, there are going to be some folks who inevitably fall for the psychological warfare through no fault of their own. It is so hard to break that this belief like, oh no, this is my friend, I'm going to pay them money. And so our philosophy is like, hey, let's try and uncover the attacker infrastructure, work with partners in private and public spaces to shut it down, so that even if someone has fallen for the psychological manipulation, when they try to pay out, that bank account is gone. And the way that we do this is we engage with the attackers, right? So we have a system that we developed that can sustain conversations for weeks to months, with the goal of, again, mapping out this attacker infrastructure from innocuous message all the way to like, hey, here's the financial account that you can send me money to. And the idea is that like at multiple stages in that conversation, you can go and shut down the financial account, what we like to call mule accounts, because you're literally muling money in these accounts. And by shutting that down, yes, someone might be heartbroken and they may have fallen for the psychological manipulation, but they physically can't pay out the money because that infrastructure is gone. If we can start to detect scammy phone numbers or the way these conversations are playing, we can do more proactive blocking with like telco partners and communication platforms. And our philosophy is, by shutting down the attacker infrastructure, we want to prevent the victim losses, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned, I talked to you about this before we started recording, but in security, there's this Swiss cheese model, right? And so security is not a one-all, be-all. If there was, I'd be out of a job. That would be great. I could relax, go do something else. But the Swiss cheese model is that, all these different defenses have holes in them, right? And so like in a network example, you have a firewall, you have multi-factor authentication, you have on-device detection. And I think a lot about scams in a Swiss cheese model as well. You're going to have education, you're going to have intervention, and then we're another layer, which is, if all of that has failed, shut down the infrastructure so someone physically can't lose the money. Or they can't respond to the message, or trying to just get them out of that situation as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So I brought up BeeSafe without really introducing
Yeah.
it. So can you tell us what that is, what the initiative is, who your partners are, how it started, where you're going?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many questions. So BeeSafe AI is an independent company that me and my two co-founders, Daniel Spicogni and Nikolai Vogler, have started. It spun out of a research project. And so we're researchers by trade. We are cybersecurity and AI experts. And we, built this system, like a proof of concept again, that engages with attackers long term. And so we were seeing these text messages come in, and I think the crux of the where this all started is like, can we build a system that even engages with them for this long? I mean, these conversations go on for months. We see it in our own data. Can you make a system that engages naturally, doesn't break safety and AI guardrails, and gets, again, that like entire attacker lifecycle conversation? And so this very much started as a research endeavor, kind of a proof of concept. And we've since spun it out into an independent entity, in part because we feel so strongly about this problem and also this layer of defense, right? It is a growing problem. The FBI just came out with their yearly cybercrime report, and like fraud losses are up, AI-generated fraud losses are up. It's like very depressing to read, to be quite honest. And part of the reason to spin this up as its own entity is like we believe that we can help do our part to try and tackle this problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really important to do it as a company so that it's sustainable. Like we want a solution or part of the Swiss cheese approach to be something that sustains itself so that it ends up being a long-term tool for all of us.
Right.
So
Right.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for what you do at Elder Law Advocacy. I mean, again, another layer of the Swiss cheese model, right? It's we're all just trying to do our part to stop these scams, and BeeSafe is one layer, one part of it.
Yeah.
Very motivated by this desire to stop these conversational scams and tackle this new social engineering mechanism, right? It used to be emails and DocuSigns. It still kind of is, and now it's text messages and DMs, and it's hurting a lot of people.
So what your background is cybersecurity. So you've been looking at this area for a long time. What has the evolution of threats been, and how have we done collectively to kind of thwart whatever those frauds were back then, and what's coming up with AI and the future of these things?
Oh man, these are great, great questions.
Big
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, I know. I'm like, how do we tackle cybercrime? So my background is in cybersecurity. I've worked in this field for about 13 years now, and my two colleagues are more on the AI side. So they've spent their careers working in like AI. Which is now a really big hot topic. I know AI is all over the news. Cybercrime is constantly evolving. Like I mentioned, these texts weren't coming in a couple years ago. This is very new, very recent, and very effective. Like billions of reported losses alone in the U.S., and the estimated is expected to be like over 100 billion or something like that. And cybercrime. Man, I have so many thoughts. I'm trying to sort them out. These are really great questions. It really mimics crime has been around for as long as humans have been around, right? It's just now a new vehicle where there's this really interesting, I think I'm going to butcher the name, like Spanish prisoner scam, where someone would send a letter and say, hey, we're friends. I know someone. We know each other. We're have this mutual connection. I'm stuck in jail. If you could just send me a little bit of money, then I can get out and then I can pay you back threefold, right? This is what we're seeing happening with these conversational scams. They're like, oh, no, 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 pay me a little bit of money. And then when I get whole, I'll pay you back like 3 times as much as a thank you. And so a lot of it looks the same as physical crime. And it's also evolved in like the methods, right? Instead of a handwritten letter that gets delivered to your abode, it's now a text message. And because of this evolution to different platforms, the scale at which it can be executed is insane. And now we're going to add AI on top of that, right? There's this technology that is highly adaptable that defenders are using, but attackers can also use. And so it's not only making these things more believable, now the phishing emails no longer have typos because the English is impeccable, but the amount that you can send, the iterations that you can try, the personalization that you can do, because you now have a machine that and an algorithm that is adapting to the way that you need is just making them more and more effective. So like cybercrime looks like crime always has, but it's getting more effective, it's getting more compelling, and it's really getting to your point of like the psychological warfare. I mean, it kind of feels like warfare. We're just getting bombarded. Where before we had phones, this wasn't even a vector, right? Like 2 decades ago, no one could even conceptualize this because 2 decades ago the internet was so different than it is now. That was a long ramble. I'll take a step back for a second.
Well, I feel like it's kind of the perfect storm
Yeah.
because like AI is just so expert at everything, including psychology. So there are like, millions of people who kind of use AI as their psychologist slash therapist.
Yeah.
So they're training the AI in terms of how to really push people's buttons and what kind of personalities are out there. And then the criminals are on the other end of the AI eating all this up, going, okay, I have like 100,000 people I want to target. And I want you, Mr. AI, to figure out the most effective way to go after each individual, not like 100,000 people anymore.
Yep.
It's that kind of diabolical. And because so AI on one hand is kind of creating the intelligence, and then the fact that we're all just like on our phones all day and on our computers all day, that's the other part of it. Like we're all isolated at some point just looking at this thing. And so that's an opportunity for a criminal to like get into your head and create some urgency and something like catastrophic that's going to happen unless you do X, Y, Z.
Exactly. No, and to your point, we're on our phones constantly. How many different platforms are we getting messages from? Email, text, social media, alternate forms of text. Sometimes I just get a WhatsApp invite that's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, all right, that's another one to add to the pile. There's so many different inbound now, right? That attackers can just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And, when we think about phishing emails, I always like to say, it takes one mess up, right? It takes, you're like tired, you're exhausted, you get a ton of different emails, you accidentally click on the bad one. And then all of a sudden, like your computer's compromised, your email account's compromised. In a similar way, with these conversational scams, it just takes having your guard down once or having the message be a little bit more compelling or a little bit more personalized for you to be like, oh, it's just someone trying to connect with me. Yeah, I'll respond to this. And then weeks, months later, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars are lost. And it is the scale and the speed at which these attacks are getting executed is only scale, speed, and sophistication, right? It's only increasing. And I think that's what's really mind-boggling to me because we didn't used to have that scale, speed, and sophistication even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's really changing the landscape.
Yeah, and AI is itself changing so fast, like
Yeah.
the sophistication. Every week there's a new model that just blows everything out of the water.
I know. I remember I took like a long weekend sometime recently and I came back and there was just like new security news and it was about, these AI models that can detect vulnerabilities quite quickly. And I was like, I just logged offline for like 48 hours. my goodness. And like that's the speed that we're talking about, right? It's
Yeah.
like you disconnect for a little bit, you come back, it's like, oh, and now there's a new groundbreaking thing.
Right.
Okay, so how does that change me as a person, me as a professional? Yeah.
Well, I feel like the other prong of this kind of perfect storm is the dark web. Like all the information, even if you're super vigilant
Yeah.
about protecting yourself, the hacks that happen on the other end of the companies that you're contracting with make you basically vulnerable because your information can be bought.
Yep.
So they can buy your personal PII, your whatever
Yep.
personal information is out there, probably everything about you.
It's all out
And
there.
then they use the AI, and then they have direct access to you via WhatsApp or messaging or
Yeah.
Meta, whatever.
Yeah. Meta. Oh.
So yeah, like it's kind of, I'm not trying to like create fear, but
No, but I think it's useful to talk about this realistically. I mean, in
yeah.
2026, how many? I actually don't know the number. How many data breaches have happened?
Oh,
You know?
no, you don't know. And
It's
also companies don't disclose it necessarily.
No, or if they do, they're like, oh, by the way, 8 months ago, all of our customers' information was leaked. And I'm like, 8 months ago?
Yeah.
Like, what? How much of that has been used? So not only is all of your information online, it's online in multiple different formats. And it's from people you don't even expect. Like, I do a lot of science communication work. And some of the general advice I give folks, which I'll give to this audience too, is to always use unique passwords for every important account. And the reason is because if you use the same account for your bank that you use for like Target, and Target has a data leak of which they've had numerous in the last decade, then all of a sudden your name, your username, your email, and now your password, which is also associated with your bank, is just online.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't think this is like, I know it because I live it, I breathe it, I've been working in this field for 13 years. But until I describe, like, no, if Target gets leaked, your bank account is also vulnerable. It's hard to tie that together, right? You're not going to be like, oh yeah, I put in a Target order and now my financial accounts are at risk. It's so intertwined, and it's sometimes hard to conceptualize.
Yeah. 5, 10 years ago, if you were being really vigilant, then you wouldn't use the same password for anything, but you might have some like something you could remember.
Yeah.
So you'd put in like a word or some number or something that would change a little bit.
Yep.
That's not good enough anymore because AI, once they have all that data from the dark web, they can look at all those passwords and figure out what the algorithm was that you were using.
Yeah.
And then they can use that to try and figure out what your password is for everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the pattern matching capabilities and the personalization are I'm trying to find a word besides terrifying. I'm at a loss,
It's diabolical.
right? Yeah, it's diabolical. Yes, that's a good phrase. It's it really is, and this sticks with me. I was attending a talk by a different researcher, and they were talking about, how phishing emails have changed. And so there's this type of phishing called spear phishing, which is very targeted. So like I would get spear phish, and they, someone would spend time doing a background on me and trying to collect data, and then send me a hyper targeted email to try and get me to click. And this person was like, yeah, so I give a lot of confidence. I'm gonna expose myself a little bit, but they're like, oh, I give a lot of conference talks. Really easy way to get me is just to say like, hey, we'd love for you to come talk at this conference.
Right. Yeah.
Like, dear so-and-so, please come talk. Click on this link to accept. And I was sitting in the crowd being like, I also give a lot of conference talks. Like, it now takes so little to figure that out, right? Mm-hmm. And before, I post online, people could find it. But now you just have one of these LLMs like, oh, show me, what does Ariana do professionally? And then all of my conference talks are going to come up. It's so easy for you to just craft an email. It's like, hey, your talk got accepted. No one please send me this email. I'm exposing myself for the education of the group. But I'm like, yeah, it's just easier now. It just reduces the time to send that personalization. Which is diabolical. But Jamie, I want to bring it back to these like conversational pig butchering scams. Mm-hmm. I think one of the difficulties is that a lot of times in the beginning, they're not super personalized, right? They look super innocuous. And what we see in our data, because like we engage with scammers, is that they will start to sprinkle in personalization throughout the conversation. So like, for example, if our system claims to enjoy classic rock, then we'll see days to weeks later, the scammer will be like, hey, by the way, I remember you like classic rock. Here's a Pandora link. Not malware, just actually a Pandora link that they were genuinely sending us. But these sorts of conversational trust-based scams, they use AI. There's evidence of this in the data, but a lot of them are still seem to be perpetuated by humans. And so it's almost a scarier situation where we're like, right now, the scale is still human-driven. And unfortunately, it's being executed a lot of times by these human trafficking victims in compounds in Southeast Asia, right? So, like, I want to address the reality of the situation, which is, like, a lot of people are being forced to send these messages.
Yeah.
And that's still human scale, though. What happens when the economics change and all of a sudden these scam compounds, for one reason or another, go away or are dissolved? And the primary tool for attack for these sorts of pig butchering conversational scams is AI-driven attacks.
Right.
Like, it's almost a scarier future because I'm like, it's still human scale. It's a diabolical, transnational, organized cybercrime scale, but it's still human, right? What happens when it evolves to the next iteration?
Right.
Like, we need to be prepared for on the defensive side.
Exactly. That's why the fluoride in the water analogy is
coming
so
back.
good. So explain that. What is the fluoride in the water idea?
Yeah, and I have to give full props to Dennis Fisher for saying this because and you saw my reaction. He mentioned this on Decipher, and I was like, that's
He
so
said,
good.
Can I use that?
Yeah, I was like, I need to use that. So we put fluoride in the water because it is a protective mechanism, right? It's like, yes, you can go to the dentist, you can find other ways to protect your teeth and your oral health, but it takes so little effort, right, to systematically put fluoride in the water, and the benefit is so high. And that's a lot. The reason I was so shocked at this analogy is because I was like, we need more security protections that are fluoride in the water, right? And that's where I think, for example, BeeSafe falls in. Is like we're working in the background. We're trying to engage with scammers as much as we can at the scale that they are operating at, right? To be the fluoride in the water, to then go and shut down these accounts, shut down these phone numbers, protect people before they're ever put in harm's way or try to prevent that as much as possible. And this just ties back to my personal philosophy, as a security professional, you don't need to be an expert to be safe on the internet. And unfortunately, sometimes it feels that way in today's world. And so I'm always thinking both in BeeSafe and outside of BeeSafe, how do we remove the onus from the user, right? How do we make these changes as organizations or as collaborators or, institutions that protect people without them needing to make that decision, right? And that's the fluoride in the water. You're protecting someone's oral health without them needing to make that decision of, am I going to brush my teeth every day? I mean, you probably should, but how can we do that for security? And that's what I've always been drawn to as a professional is how do we build in protections for the current world that we're living in?
Mm-hmm. And that's what BeeSafe is about, right? It's the fluoride, or one type of fluoride. We're going to need a Swiss cheese approach, so we're going to need lots of different fluorides, but
I know.
BeeSafe is one.
Yeah, that is what we are striving for. We are trying to be the fluoride in the water, showing up as a layer of the defense model, and protect some people who may not know that they're in the midst of a scam or about to be scammed or at any stage in that life cycle.
So what are, I don't want to give away too much to the criminals, but you're going to be going after the bank accounts and the phone systems. Like, what is it that BeeSafe is going to target as?
It's basically anything that would show up in that conversational scam. And so the scammy phone numbers being used, the mule accounts. Sometimes they send weird domains or malicious apps. You know, they're like, oh, download this investment app, and it turns out it's a scam itself. But excuse me, anything you can think of in that life cycle, because we are mapping it, we're collecting data on it. That's what we are aiming to shut down, right?
Okay.
It's whatever channel they are trying to go through. We want to figure it out as quickly as possible. Work with people again in the private and public sphere to say like, hey, this is happening. Can we go and work together to remove this from the network as quickly as possible?
Okay. And you'll be working with the banks and the telephone companies. Is that how this is going to?
Yeah. So telecommunication companies, messaging platforms, financial platforms, and also some government agencies that are, you know, because they're interested in protecting people and doing some good at that layer. And so that's the three areas that we're focusing on for now.
Okay.
And we're pretty early. It's pretty early stage for us, but it's still very exciting.
Yeah. You had mentioned, I think with Dennis, the UK and Australia approach.
Yeah.
What do you know about that, and what can we do here to improve what we're doing that way?
Yeah. So right now in the US, for example, we have protections for credit card fraud. And so if you have a fraudulent charge, you can report that to the bank. The bank does their own investigation. And typically, I forget what the percentage is, but typically they give reimbursement to a certain amount. And if it's a small charge, they'll just give the full amount. But there's policy in place to protect against credit card fraud. This type of fraud, where someone engages with an attacker, willingly pays money, right? Like, I am sending you as the attacker however much you requested. That is called APP fraud, authorized push pay fraud, right? The idea being that you are authorizing that transaction and then find out later, or maybe never find out, that, oh, that was fraudulent. I just got scammed in a very elaborate psychological trap. In the United States, we currently don't have any sort of protection for APP fraud. So there is no regulation. There's been some suggestions, some rumblings, but there's nothing similar to credit card fraud that says, like, hey, if this happens to you, here's your recourse. In the UK and Australia, there is protection for APP fraud in those countries. And so banks are required to reimburse with, you know, and there's what's the word I'm looking for? Not regulation, but requirements on like the documentation, and you have to show like, oh, this was actually fraudulent, you know, similar to how you have to show documentation sometimes for your credit card fraud. But in those situations, you know, banks are required to pay back, and it's kind of unique where it's not just your bank, it is both sides. So the sending and receiving have to split the reimbursement.
Oh, interesting.
And so now you have public policy that is putting pressure on a industry, because they're like, hey, if this happens, you have to pay back. And it is super interesting because that is an example of where I think public policy is really protecting the people who unfortunately are getting frauded in this way.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that happen in the US. You know, similar, and I always mention credit card fraud because everyone's at some point in their adult life has had a credit card fraudulent charge,
Sure.
right? And I just worry that APP fraud is getting to that point where again, it's like if you look at the end of your life, it's like, oh, everyone has had some sort of APP fraud. And I'm like, so where's the protection for that?
Right. It's not for lack of trying, Ariana. I can tell you that we, as an organization, we've sued banks in cases where they've facilitated the transfer of wealth based on a scam. And we've also worked on legislation to try to create some kind of liability similar to in the UK or Australia. But there's a lot of lobby pressure against it. And I'm guessing we all know where the lobby pressure is coming from. So, yeah, there's one case called Dawson, California. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really been the issue for us when we're trying to prosecute these cases.
Right.
It's just very hard. So we've had some success. We've had a couple of settlements, but they're not nearly what they should be.
Yeah.
And the reality is we have really good law in California when it comes to financial elder abuse, but it doesn't have the teeth that it needs. Like there is a mandated reporter law in California that's
Yeah.
very good. So if a financial institution has to suspects fraud, they have to report it. The problem is if they don't report it, they're not living up to what they have to do. There's no real recourse. There's no private right of action. So
Right.
a client who goes to a bank, and this actually happened to one of our clients, the teller said, "You sure this isn't a scam? It looks like a scam. I think this is a scam." Didn't report it. And the client ended up sending the money and losing the money.
Right.
And there was no recourse. Like the client couldn't sue the bank because that statute in the Welfare and Institutions Code didn't have a way for him to do it. So we've been trying to get legislation in place that would change that, but it's really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know more about that than I do because that's your area of expertise. But I think it's so crucial because it is, again, another layer of defense. I mean, in this case, it's actually more of a forcing mechanism to get the institutions to take the threat seriously.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
to educate their staff and
Yeah.
to take, we have a program that sues nursing homes for abuse and neglect, and it just makes it expensive for the nursing homes to allow it to happen.
Right.
It's the same with the banks. If you make it expensive for the banks, they're going to put more effort into preventing it.
Exactly.
So from our perspective, that's what we would like in place, but it is difficult.
Yeah. I am aligned with you there. I would love to see more regulation in this area, and it seems like there's a lot of hurdles to get there.
Oh yeah, definitely. What are there any other? Since you're a cybercrime expert, security expert, can you just give us some kind of guidelines in terms of what we should be doing? Like the fluoride in the water is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hope that we have lots of fluoride.
Right.
But what should we be doing? Like, and just as individuals, like, do we need to use VPNs and do we need to, if something comes up and says this site is not secure, like, does that mean we can't ever go to that website?
Yeah.
People don't know these things.
No, I know. And again, this goes back to my previous comment. It's like a tragedy that to navigate today's internet, you really need to me, it feels like you have to be a security expert. And I'm like, let's try to dispel that as much as possible. Okay, general security advice that I generally like to give: use unique passwords. The longer the better. And so like a really long sentence that's just a bunch of random words is fantastic. There's a great XKCD comic on this. It's like Battery Horse. If you look at Battery Horse XKCD, it's a fun comic. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not even gonna try. Unique passwords on all your important accounts as long as possible, because length is much harder to crack than a shorter but super complex password. When it comes to these sorts of pig butchering, conversational scams, in general, I think with education, to be quite frank, black and white is usually better. If there is an incoming number, an incoming call or text from a number that you do not recognize, I do not recommend that you respond to it. If you do pick up the phone, and this is something we haven't even talked about, deep fakes. There's now these scams where people are like, oh, I picked up the phone and I heard my grandchild's voice and they were in an accident and they needed me to send them money. Turns out that's all AI generated because our voices are all over the internet and it's really easy to mimic that. And so if you do respond to these messages and they are conveying a sense of urgency, like you have to act now, I need you to send money, that is a big red flag for me. Like take a step back, hang up the phone, try to contact that person in the way that you know. And so this is like the advice that I give my mom. I'm like, Mom, if you ever get an email or text or call from me that doesn't look like it's coming from me, hang up, call me on the number that you know and be like, hey, was that you? And I can tell you a lot of times it was not. Like I've gotten so many calls from my friends and family who are like, hey, this email, was this from you? And it's like, that email was not from me. Please don't click on that. So always contact the people that you know through the trusted channel. So the phone number you have for them, the email you have, the phone, I guess those are the channels.
What about virus software like Norton
Yeah.
and
I
like
was just
are
thinking about the
those
network
things
side.
anachronistic? Like what about that?
They, I,
Windows Defender? What can we use?
yeah. It- The literature is really murky. The
Okay.
literature, it does not paint a very positive picture for like the antivirus softwares,
Hmm.
and especially in this like world of AI generated code and vulnerabilities. There's a lot of debate on whether that's useful or not. I would say, the best thing you can do is don't go to weird websites or URLs. Try to avoid clicking on emails in your links. If you get an email from your bank, instead of clicking on the link, close the email and go to like Bank of America or Chase, the URL that, again, the trusted contact. And if you get a phone call or an email or a message that even looks like it's from these institutions, I would still recommend hanging up, looking at your credit card, signing into the portal, and contacting them directly. Because, not to complicate this advice any further, but attackers can also spoof calls
Right.
to make it look like on your phone it's coming from a number associated with your bank.
Hmm.
And so that's something, if there's any sort of urgency, just like be like, I need to go look into this, hang up, and then call your bank from the number you have on that credit card or whatnot, because that will give you the best ground truth, the reality that's actually happening, than any of these incoming messages, emails, calls. But yeah, I can't say I would advise on antivirus software. It's the support is dubious, shall I say?
Okay, one other tangent.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, if like you had pulled up a website and it asked you to connect to your bank,
Yeah.
to pull in that information so that you could get a list of all your accounts and your whatever loyalty points, whatever it
Yep.
is, no one would do it. It was
I
like
know.
no one did that. Now, everyone does it 10 times a day. It's like, oh, connect my bank? Sure. Click, 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 click. So how dangerous is that?
Um. Oh my goodness, I had a question about this last week. A lot of those like connectors, these companies that like their main purpose is to hook in service to your bank,
Hmm.
right? They face a level of scrutiny and regulation that makes them, relatively safe. It does introduce some risk. I mean, imagine like instead of just typing in your bank account numbers directly, have an intermediary that's doing that connection for you. Um, they're hypothetically fine. I always like to say, if that does not sit well with you, there are almost always ways for you to manually put in the bank account numbers, which is what I do, because I'm like, I just don't want to introduce another party, another software that they in themselves can get leaked, attacked. I mean, it opens up just more risk,
Hmm.
right? And so I like to think a lot about, how do I reduce the risk in my life, knowing that I'm a person who has an online profile on the internet, I do online banking. And so that's just how I choose to reduce my own risk. But like, hypothetically, they are regulated, they are supposed to be safe. Mistakes can happen. And
Right.
and that's true with any software and anything, right? It's just, we are introducing more and more risk into our lives,
Yeah.
which makes me more and more cautious.
It seems like credit cards really are kind of the safest way to transact now because you do have some recourse. There are the guidelines or
Yeah.
legislation that make some make the provider
Right.
liable
Right.
to some extent,
Right.
and there's also the delay, so they don't get paid right away, as opposed to with a debit card, the money's just like gone. And
Yeah.
then there's also the exposure, like if you're wiring money or you're, you know, whatever the scammers are telling you to do, get gift cards, whatever it is, that money's gone.
Yeah.
So credit cards seem to have something that most other financial products don't have.
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah. And one thing I really want to caution viewers about is, alternate forms of paying. I mean, you mentioned wiring, you mentioned debit cards, but a lot of these scammers will try to get you to purchase like cryptocurrency and send money through cryptocurrency because that is not a regulated method, right? That's if the money is gone, the money is gone. There are ways to trace that money and try and get it back to you, but that requires investigations. There's no guarantee there. I really caution folks on transferring money through cryptocurrency, and the scammers know. And so just to educate folks, they have playbooks where they will talk victims through like, oh, no, download this. Now transfer money by clicking these buttons. Now transfer money to me by clicking these buttons. And they will actually walk people, excuse me, through the warnings. Excuse me. And I saw this on my own bank account, so not cryptocurrency related, but like my bank, I was trying to send a friend money through a Zelle, and it had a warning that was like, do you know this person? Beware of romance scams, friend scams, etc.
That's good.
We know from these, investigations and raids on these scam compounds that in their playbooks, they have recourse for that. So they're like, oh, no, just click through that. Don't worry about that.
Right. We have had clients who've been given really detailed scripts about what to say when they get to the bank.
Yes.
Because the scammers say, okay, the teller's probably going to tell you that this is a scam. I need you to say that you know about this property in Thailand and you visited it and you've researched it and you've bought property in Thailand before.
The playbook is intricate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of what they're doing. So they're targeting you based on your psychology, and then they're giving you scripts that deal with the psychology all the way down through the entire process so that you don't end up in a situation where someone alerts you to the fact that you're being scammed.
Right. It's like, no, I know they're going to push you on this, but that's expected. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So, yeah, it is a scary world out there.
Yeah. If anyone's interested in the trafficking aspect of it, Aaron West has a website. I think it's called the Shamrock Project. But if you
Operation Shamrock,
Shamrock.
Fantastic work.
If you Google that or look it up on social media, she's been going into like Cambodia and investigating all these things and actually shutting some things down.
Yeah. Aaron does some fantastic work. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've kind of covered what I wanted to.
Yeah.
Where are you going with your research? Are you still doing research and sort of where are you with BeeSafe? What's the future looking like?
Yeah, BeeSafe is continuing to grow. So, it's part of the benefit of being researchers by trade is that we can keep up with things as they evolve. And so we are continuously trying to scale our operations so that wherever scams are coming into, we are also there so that we can investigate and find what the attackers are trying to do before real people are caught in the process, and adapting to things as they change. It is an ever-evolving world. And I like to always mention, like a year ago, a lot of us were getting these toll road scams.
Mm-hmm. I got a lot of those.
And now it's gone, right? Because the effectiveness is done. People were able to be like, hey, you get the people and institutions alike were, ringing the bell on it and saying like, hey, don't pay the toll warning scams. And now they're ineffective. And now they've moved on to these more conversational things. And in 6 months, who knows what it'll look like, Jamie.
Right.
So we are continuously trying to just keep up to date with the attacks as they're evolving while scaling to be at their level. And I've got a question for you. Where do you see the most effective defenses? I mean, you are dealing with victims day to day. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Effective defenses. I'm kind of hesitant to say because whatever it is that we've been seeing in the past that were telltale signs of scams, what it's going to be tomorrow is going to be something more sophisticated, more diabolical, more targeted, more just like out there. So I'm really kind of, I feel like if I say, don't do this, if you see this, don't do that, I feel like I'm giving people a false sense of security.
In 72 hours, it'll be completely changed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like AI. It's like, which opus are we on? 4.6, 4.7? I don't know. It
Yeah.
changes every day. Every day there is some like new AI platform that just revolutionizes everything. And
Yeah.
I think it's the same with scams. Like you can't just say, if you do this, you'll be safe.
Yeah. 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 It is
So
constantly evolving.
I feel like what people need to do is be paying attention
Yeah.
to these conversations, check out what Aaron West is doing maybe,
Yeah.
but to stay on top of it, I don't know. I don't know.
It is a really interesting question. There is how does someone stay up to date with the best practices? Because, like, for example, we used to tell people to change your password every 3 to 6 months because that was a best practice. And then there was all this empirical research that came out that was like, don't do that. It makes it more guessable because people are just using easy passwords because they're like, well, I need to change in 6 months anyway. And you still see organizations that are requiring password changes because they're like, oh, well, that was the best practice. Like, no, that was the best practice like 10 years ago.
Right.
We've proved that wrong. Like, and so, yeah, it's an interesting question. How do people stay up to date besides finding resources and
I mean, we do a lot of educational
Yeah.
events. We do talk, and I mean, this is an educational event. This is
is.
why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. That's why I do
Because-
science communication all the time. I'm like, let me tell you about cybersecurity.
Yeah, you need to be talking about it and thinking about it because everybody is getting these messages and you need to know what it is that's coming in and really what the process is. Like if you know that the scammers give you a narrative,
Yeah.
that's a really important piece of information to have because if you are like your romantic partner or your investment partner, whatever, suddenly gives you a narrative to go into a bank to
Yeah.
get money wired, maybe that's what they need to know. Like that's a red flag.
Right.
But that's really, down the road. That's after you've been manipulated into something really big.
Yeah. We do the best we can with the knowledge we have now. And I don't know, Jamie, I hope in a couple years or less time, we can come back together and say like, wow, look at all the progress we've made on scams. It is
Well, I think there will be more ways to address it. So what you're doing is really important. I think because of the deep fakes, we're going to have some kind of watermarking that makes it possible to see if a video is real or a picture is real. Like there has to be some market solution to this. Otherwise, society is just going to like be overwhelmed with crime.
Right. We're all just going to collectively lose our minds from the overwhelm.
Right. Yeah.
It's just going to be a bombardment. No, you're completely right.
Yeah. So I think we kind of like have to have these conversations and we have to like find the solutions and find sustainable solutions and counter the AI and the AI companies have to be on top of it as well.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones that are going to be queried by the scammers in Cambodia who want to figure out how to target you.
Yeah.
And so they need to be part of the solution as well.
Completely.
All right. So if you want to leave people with one message, what would that be?
Don't respond to those innocuous messages. As much as you can avoid it, don't respond to those messages. They are, I'll leave it at that.
That's great. And we'll be back with whatever the updated advice is in 2 months and 6 months and a year.
Yeah. I'll keep you in the loop for sure.
That sounds great. Thank you very much for coming on today and talking to me about this. The more that we talk about it, the better.
Absolutely. Jamie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.